My name is Erik Segelbaum. I am the founder and chief innovation officer of SOMLYAY, wherein I provide full-service hospitality consulting based on my near 3 decades in this business, both as a chef for 10 years in back of the house, and then front of the house as a sommelier, as a manager, as a director, and at the executive level. My entire business model is focused on helping you do things that maximize your business potential. In this industry, a lot of people have creative talent, but there's sometimes a disconnect between that creative talent and financial operations management. So today we're going to talk about what to do when there's nothing to do and strategies to maximize your restaurant revenue potential. It's no secret that the coronavirus has been one of the many things that has wreaked absolute havoc on our industry. And right now, whether your restaurant is completely closed temporarily, whether it's closed for all but to-go service, whether it's limited socially distanced patio service, whatever model reality your restaurant or operation lives in right now, there's potentially a ton to do, and it almost feels like there's nothing to do as well. So now is a great time to check in on the financial health of your organization. And more than ever, maximizing revenue is critical. Absolutely critical. Listen, restaurants just cannot succeed at 50 or 70% operational capacity. So every guest that comes in, whether they're going to stay in a seat or whether they're just in for to-go business, is even more vital. It's more important that you're capturing the potential spend from them. And again, I'm not suggesting that you see your guests as walking money bags or wallets. That's not the point. The point is that there are things that you can do to maximize the opportunities for guests to spend happily and comfortably in your organization. So first and foremost, now is a really good time to look at your PMIX, your product mix. Look at what your best sellers are. Look at what your worst sellers are. Look at what's kind of sluggish. And also is a great time to perform a SWOT analysis. And if you're not familiar with SWOT analysis, it stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And you want to do this holistically for your business. It doesn't matter if you're casual or fine dining, if you're a chain or a franchise, if you're a wine bar, a restaurant, whatever you are, you need to self-identify what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, what your opportunities are, and what your threats are. And it's going to be different for everyone. So this is very much a self-directed thing. I can't tell you categorically, oh, this will be your strength, this will be a weakness. Once you have your SWOT analysis and your product mix, look at them together holistically and think about how you can capitalize on your strengths, how you can shift your products to take care of maybe some of the weaknesses or to capture some of the opportunities, how you can maybe mitigate threats by thinking about what you sell and how you sell it. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to completely re-envision your business model. That's not what we're talking about here. Although, frankly, there are going to be some operations that really need to do that to survive. There's no question about it. But what it does mean is think about what you sell and how you sell that. One of the things that is a struggle for operators to understand is that there will always be a bestseller. So I can't tell you how many times I've heard, oh, no, we can't take that off the menu. That's our bestseller. No, we can't eliminate this cocktail. No, we can't change this wine by the glass. It's our bestseller. Well, I have news for you. There will always be a bestseller, no matter what is on your menu. If you have 2 things on your menu or 200,000, you'll always have a bestseller. But also, you will always have a worst seller. And worst seller doesn't necessarily mean bad. If you have, for example, 10 wines by the glass, one of them is going to sell the least. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's a bad thing, because what you need to look at, in addition to your product mix, is the margins that those items bring in. And what's amazing is when you do this financial health check, and what you'll often find is that your best seller is probably one of your least profitable items. There's a reason people gravitate towards these things. It's probably, oh, wow, this wine is such a good deal, this entree is such a good deal, whatever it is. Well, it's probably because the cost that goes into it is such that you're not charging as much as you should, and people are recognizing that. So best sellers and worst sellers aren't necessarily a good thing, and frankly, it's better to have a slow mover that's at really great profitability and high margin than it is to have a bestseller, a high moving item that's at low margin. Because again, we're talking about revenue capture, but we're also talking about gross profit, right? That's really important right now. And having revenue come in high with low gross profit is not good. Having revenue maximized while also maximizing profit is going to be, I mean, it's frankly always been important, but now more than ever, it's going to be important to your operations viability and longevity too. you need to plan for new operating reality. We don't know when it's going to be until we can holistically open all of our seatable space inside and out, and not just legally, but also comfort from our diners and guests. So even if it's legal in your state or your city to seat every single space, shoulder to shoulder at the bar, wall to wall in the dining room, communal tables, what have you, that doesn't mean that there's going to be consumer confidence in that. So when you're thinking about how your new operating reality is going to change, you also really need to think about changing your product mix. You need to create a plan to shift your product mix to your high margin items. And I'm not suggesting that you just raise prices. What I'm saying is you need to look at the items that give you the best gross profit with the lowest cost of goods and figure out ways to catalyze demand for those and to put them foremost in the minds and hearts of your potential buyers. Now, if I were to tell you every single way you could do that, this would be not a 5-minute video, but a 5-hour video. But it's really important that you start to think about these things. So for instance, let's look at your Wine by the Glass program. Let's say you sell 8 wines by the glass. If you're running high margin wines that are not necessarily at the top of your product mix, maybe there's a reason. And here's a good example. I've seen a lot of, 8 wines by the glass, but maybe they have 2 Pinot Noirs. And maybe the one that sells the least is higher margin, but is $1 more or $2 more than another one by the glass. Well, what you can actually do here is eliminate one of the two choices, right? Now, I'm not suggesting, and again, it has to fit the price point and the category of your business. So if you're a fine dining restaurant, I'm not advocating for a $10 Pinot Noir. And if you're a casual restaurant, I'm not suggesting the only Pinot Noir option is $19 or $20 or $22. But I see this a lot with Pinot Noir, Chardonnay, Cabernet, Sauvignon Blanc, especially, like really popular varietals, that oftentimes you'll have things by the glass at very similar price points, and there's just really no sensible reason to do that, because what you're doing is cannibalizing business. So if in this reality where you have a small wine by the glass program, but maybe two expressions of the same varietal, it might be a good time to remove the one that is lower margin and replace it with something that is maybe not in your competitive set or not in your product mix that could then also be another high margin item. So now the question isn't which Pinot Noir or which Chardonnay for the sake of this example. You could bring in a similarly styled wine from a different grape, where now it's a matter of which style of wine that the guest is looking for do you want to direct them to, and either way you're looking at high margin things. So again, right now, the name of the game is think holistically about what sells, why it sells, what kind of margin you take on that, what your gross profitability is, and try to shift and manipulate things in a way that benefits your guests first and foremost, because I'm not suggesting you gouge anyone, but just think about how your product mix and what your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats are, how they can work together to drive more revenue into your truncated operating space, and to drive not only more revenue, but more gross profit or high profit items. And in that way, hopefully, you can make a little bit more money and ensure your long-term success financially and also the longevity of your operation. Thank you for tuning in. There'll be more to come.